Launching your comic, the very first week of its lifespan, is probably the most important time for your comic, especially on sites like Webtoons and Tapas. And the reason for that is that you get a whole bunch of buffs when you initially post your comic. You can get on the new and noteworthy tab, you are in the new section in general, which is good. And there's just like more hype around something new. People will check it out. They're less likely to check out old comics. And that's why it's like your most important time. It's your first impression. It's good to work towards having a really good launch at this point in time. And I want to help you do that. Every other week after your launch is very important, and you can still grow if you have a bad launch, and you can still slowly build something up, but it's so much easier to have a good launch. You know, I usually get the first amount of subscribers in the launch section, and then it's slow after that. The core audience is kind of formed at that moment, I find, when it comes to launching my comics. So yeah, let's talk about it. How do you have a good launch? What are some easy things you can do? So first and foremost, if you have any sort of following, say a YouTube channel, a previous comic, or like social media following, you should be promoting your comic leading up to its announcement. You can create a page on Webtoon or Tapas, I believe, before you actually start posting, so you can link to it and people can start subscribing before your first post. I believe that this is something that you can do still. If not, things have changed or they never were and I'm just misremembering. But directing people, having a call to action, a clear call to action is good. If you don't have a presence, if you don't have anywhere to post, really, I wouldn't worry about it. You don't have to promote it tons leading up to it. You can, but it's better to have a call to action when you do start promoting it. And just know that if you don't really have a following, it's hard to get people interested in your comic. It's just difficult. Like it's better to just have the comic and be promoting the comic if you don't have a following, because then like if you like think about it, is just like if you don't know this artist and they're just like, oh, I have a comic, and then they link to something where there is no comic, you probably won't hit subscribe and you probably won't engage with it. So you're kind of like losing an engagement by not directing them to a page that has your comic. Whereas if they are a fan of yours already and would be interested in your comic anyways, then it's good for them to have like a place where they can go and say, subscribe, like I want to see this when it comes out. And that's kind of just how I think of it when it comes to like getting ready to launch a comic, based on whether or not you have a social media or whatever. My next thing is that when you initially start posting your comic, you want to have a hyper schedule posting to it. This has always been helpful for me when it comes to like posting my Webtoons. When I start like posting on Webtoons, I start with daily uploads for a few weeks, or even at least just the first week, and then I slowly pare down things in and settle into my preferred schedule, because early on you want to be putting yourself up onto the feed frequently, and each time you post you get into the feed, and you can't keep that up forever, obviously, which is why it's good to do it in the first week where it's going to matter the most, where like you have the potential to get on the new and noteworthy comic section, or like staff picks, or whatever it is. Like that is usually the case for me. That's usually where I end up getting my initial boost, is that I aim to try and get into like the staff picks and the new and noteworthy tab. Obviously, like your skill level will determine where you fall in that, unfortunately or fortunately. It's just part of it, you know. But when you're new, having lots of updates helps. It creates a sense of reliability in the new readership and engages them like frequently, instead of being like, okay, I read this one update, I thought it was cool, and then they forget about it. If you give like a good week where people can keep checking in and seeing new stuff coming out, you can start building your early, more engaged readership. So once the update schedule like evens out, becomes more weekly or monthly or whatever it is, you end up having a readership that is like engaged and trusts you to keep doing updates. Because like, okay, like a lot of the time webcomics can kind of be a bit of a vaporware type thing where like people post the first episode, it's really good, and then you hear nothing, or like the comic dies off, or it's like no updates whatsoever. So like having frequent updates at the beginning creates like, it establishes a relationship between you and your new readers that you're like, okay, I have enough where I'm going to be sharing, these are the kind of updates I'm going to be sharing. And once we move into the weekly schedule, like there's like some trust that's built up, and there is a pattern of returning to the comic that you are establishing. When you first post your comic, you also want to be, when you first launch your comic, you want to make sure to get on the different web listings as well, because, you know, like when you're new, there's just more hype around your comic. I think Belfry is still active, especially if you do furry comics. Belfry is a place to go to. The webcomic Travelog, the webcomic library, those are a few good ones to get onto. I think there's more, but I would look into those as well, yes, because those are all places where people will be checking to see if there's new comics available to look at. And yeah, like your launch is just very important. I have found in doing this that whatever readership I get at launch is the equivalent of like several months of work, several months of dedicated posting, and just hoping to end up mentioned places and promoting myself on here. Obviously, you can check all my comics down below to see that. Some of my comics get recommended more often than others. Yeah, like usually there's a big boost that happens at the beginning that you can kind of get a sense for how well your comic is going to do. It's difficult. And with all that in mind, like obviously before you launch, you want to make sure that you have this big amount of comics to show up. You want to have a big buffer to go off of. You kind of want to prepare for like your initial launch week. You also want to have like a buffer for like after the launch week so that you can keep things going. You want to prepare a lot before you actually sit down and do the initial like launch or whatever. And I don't know if I said this in this recording or whatever, it's been a while, but if you're like, if you have a following, we have a following, you can talk about your comic, you can reference it. Like that's me in Crow Story. I'm always talking about Crow Story. I'm going to try and do a good launch for Crow Story. I'll be real. I'm giving you all this advice, but also I tend to launch on a whim. I'll be honest. I don't usually start with a pre-launch section. I don't do that enough with my Kickstarters either. I'm just too excited to launch. But pre-launch, especially once you have a audience built up, is very important, because if you have a good pre-launch ready, when you actually launch, when people are ready for something to appear, you can get that initial boost. And on sites like Tapas and Webtoon, when you have an initial boost, like that will help you in getting into like those listings that you want, like those popular listings that you want. Like that will push you up if your audience comes and helps like lift you there. Like, I'm not a huge fan of using Webtoon. I prefer people to read my stuff on Comic Fury, and I guess I could talk a little bit about launching on Comic Fury because I do kind of feel different about how you would launch on Comic Fury. But generally speaking, getting your audience to flood your work when it pops off is going to help it get launched into, I'm saying launch a lot, but it helps you get put into like other listings. Because like whenever I get on the Webtoons canvas like main page for whatever, like new and noteworthy, hot, whatever, like I get like a couple hundred subscribers to my comic, which is good. With 9 Point, I think I got on Staff Picks, and that's why it ended up with 2,000 subscribers at the start. So like they are important, being able to get into those slots. Like they do give some amount of engagement that's meaningful. So yeah, like as I was saying with Comic Fury, I think your launch week doesn't matter as much. I think being consistent on Comic Fury matters a lot more, and it's because it doesn't have the same sort of algorithmic and non-algorithmic like pedestals that you can get put on. Every time you update, you end up on the front page, so it's the same. Any day can be launch day when it comes to Comic Fury, and that's like a lot more old-fashioned, a lot more similar to how things used to be on like Smack Jeeves. Like with those ones, with those kind of old school ones, and let's be real, like Comic Fury is kind of like the only one of this category. I guess there's the Duck, less so, but like with Comic Fury, you just want to have frequent updates. I wouldn't do so many batch updates with Comic Fury early on. If you want to kind of announce your presence on Comic Fury, I would do daily uploads as well. If you have a Webtoon type thing where you put several pages into one update, which is fair, with Comic Fury, I would just pace out your updates by several hours, because Comic Fury is it's a feed that is based on time rather than being based on algorithms and whatever. So like if you do like a morning update and a night update, more people will see your comic. You just want to update at different times. So if you're starting your launch there and you have like a high density of comic pages that you're going to be using, I would make sure to just space out your updates at different times so that more people coming to the site, no matter when they show up, they're going to be like, oh, there's this new comic, I've never seen this before, and click on it. Make sure that you have all of your covers and thumbnails ready that are interesting, engaging. Pick good ones. With Comic Fury, you're allowed to do animated ones, so consider that, because that can draw attention, obviously. And yeah, that is my advice for launching your comic. Thank you for listening. A reminder that we are doing a live stream week at the end of the month where we will be doing commissions. We're raising money for our dog who needs dental surgery. All of her teeth are very sad, but one is very, very sad and her face is swollen up. And we need the money, so we're going to be doing commissions. We're doing it all in 1 week. We're going to do a little drive. So if you want Ursula to draw your art, maybe I'll color, I don't know, whatever. But like, I probably won't color. I don't know why I'm promising this. But if you want that, save up your money and we will gladly take it. And hopefully Madoka can get her new teeth. They're not new teeth. She's losing teeth. They're going to be removed. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, goodbye. Thank you. Check out any of my other videos. I have so many. Okay, goodbye.